So here we are at the end of another year. This year has absolutely flown by. I mean, it literally only feels like 5 or 6 months ago that I was making the last one of these videos, but apparently it's the end of the year again. And yeah, I don't know where the time has gone. It's absolutely flown by. It's been an insanely busy year. I've probably been the busiest I've ever been this year across everything that I do, which is great. And I absolutely love it. But that has contributed to the time going very, very fast. And I almost feel very unprepared for the fact that it's the end of the year, because I still feel like I've got a lot of time left this year. And I really don't, because we are at the end of it now. So this year has been manic. I mean, in the last 12 months, I've spent the majority of the year on tour, which has been great fun. I love going on the road and love touring. So that's been insane, but it does make the days go very, very fast. I went to the NAMM show, which was such a cool thing. I mean, that was a big highlight for me of everything I've achieved in my career so far. To go to the NAMM show was such a big plus for me. I've shot a huge amount of videos for the channel. As you guys have seen, there's been a lot of content this year. The channel has grown a lot. Since last Christmas, we've actually doubled in size. So at the time of shooting this video, it's just past 12,000 subscribers. So thank you guys for making that happen. You've doubled the channel size in 12 months. And I really couldn't do that without you guys watching the videos. I also moved house halfway through the year, as you probably saw by the studio change around about May this year. So my studio changed again. I was in a rental house for a little while between moving from one place to another. Now I'm in a permanent home that I bought. So I am settled again. I'm not moving from this studio for quite some time. I will be in this room for the foreseeable future, unless I suddenly wake up and I've got a lot of money and I can buy a bigger studio. But until that happens, this is pretty much the backdrop you're going to see for the time being. What else have I done this year? I have also spent a week in the studio in September recording some music with a friend of mine for a project that we're releasing next year. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen a few little bits and pieces about that along the way. The tracks are done. They're really sounding great and we're super excited to get them out. But we've just got a few things we need to tie up before we can launch the project officially. I also filmed the entire week in the studio as well, so there will be a video on that coming in 2024 at some point as well. So as always, I always like to wind up the year with a best of video and talk about 10 of my favorite things that I've come across this year. Now, these things that I'm going to talk about aren't strictly things that were released this year. They're just 10 things that came into my possession or things that came through my studio to do videos with in this 12-month period that have really, really inspired me. They're in no particular order, so let's dive straight in. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is my Valiant guitars Jupier. So this is a guitar that Valiant built me to my specification, which is now available on their website. So if you want one just like this, there's actually a spec version of this on their website that you can order yourself. So I met them in 2022 at 42 Gear Street. And me and Igor, that runs the company, sat down and had a really good conversation about what I need from a guitar and, you know, what kind of things I use it for, what I need from it tonally, in terms of playability, durability, and everything else. And this was the end result. So they built me this thing, which is absolutely insane. And this, for me, is one of my favorite guitars. Even though I've only had this a year, this feels like a guitar that I've owned for a lifetime because I've become so attached to this thing. I absolutely love it. So there was a full-length video on this posted on the channel recently. It's been in videos all year, but if you've been following the channel, you will have seen that I did a full-length video on this very recently, so you can check that out. Here's how this thing sounds in action. So the second thing I want to talk about is this pedal. This is the Beebo from Poly Effects. This is something that I've only had for maybe like 2 months at the point of shooting this video. This is a multi-effects pedal unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's fully touchscreen and it's kind of based on that modular synth kind of architecture where you kind of pick modules, you link them up, and you can do so many different things. Basically a multi-effects pedal that has no limits really in terms of what you can do routing-wise, effects order-wise. The only thing you're governed by is the amount of CPU that it has. So if you make a chain that overloads the CPU, obviously that's where you're going to find your ceiling. But it's pretty hard to do that because it's got quite a lot of power in there. So I did a video on this recently, and honestly, it's quite mind-blowing. I've done a lot of multi-effects videos, and nothing has ever really kind of spoke to me like this thing has, because of the flexibility of it. And it's really a pedal that you can kind of do whatever you want with it. I'm actually in the process of integrating this into a new pedal board build, and it's going to serve 2 really cool functions inside that rig. So stay tuned for that because I've got a new pedal board video coming soon. But in the meantime, you can check out the full-length video on this, and honestly, it's going to blow your mind if you've never seen this thing before, just how much it can do. It's got all of your standard effects in there. It's got amp sims, it's got cab sims, it's got loads of like synthesizer components, it's got LFOs, it can even send and receive MIDI, so you can actually use this with, you know, like a Helix or like a HX Stomp, and actually send MIDI signals to control that unit as well. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing with this, is assuming I can figure out how MIDI works, I'm going to be using this to trigger some patch changes on my HX Stomp in my bigger pedal board. So yeah, this thing's crazy. Go check out the full-length video of this. This is an incredible pedal, and I really feel like I've only just scratched the surface of what this can do, and I think I've got a lot of learning left, but I'm having fun learning it. Alright, so the third thing I'm going to talk about is probably, and this is going to be a bold statement, one of my favourite overdrive pedals of all time. I've played and own a lot of overdrive pedals, and this one really, really blew my mind. That is the Wampler Germanium Tumnus. Now, I've been a huge fan of clones for many, many years, and I've always had a clon style pedal on my pedal board in some capacity. And every single time I've gone from clon to clon, I've always kind of felt that there's something in my head that I can't quite hear it doing. And it's close, but I don't know what I'm missing because I can't really describe it, but something isn't there. When I plugged this in, that thing that I thought was missing, even though I still can't explain what it is, was no longer missing. So for me, this really has solved a lot of my problems that I've had with clon pedals. And yeah, it literally blew my mind. I don't know how much impact those germanium diodes actually have on the sound, but whatever Brian Wampler has done to this has solved all of my problems. So thank you, Brian. I love this pedal. fourth thing I'm going to talk about is my Shergold Telstar. Now, I've been a Shergold player for probably about 4 years now, and I'm very proud to say that I am actually a Shergold artist as well, and have been for a few years. Shergold were a brand that really got behind me when I started my YouTube journey. So I met them at a trade show, and from the minute I started on YouTube, they were straight there to support me with everything I needed. They were great, they looked after me, and they still look after me to this day, and they're fantastic guys. This year, they brought out a new model, which was the Telstar. Now, I knew about this thing from probably maybe October last year, so 2022, before this was even in the public domain. And the reason I knew is because they asked me to be in the official promo videos for this when the guitar launched, which I was in this year. So if you actually go over to the Shergold channel, you can see me in the official launch day videos for this guitar. So when they sent me one of these to check out ahead of the launch, I was just honestly blown away by how good it was, especially considering that it's so affordable. These are well under £500 in the UK. So with this guitar, I always loved the idea of a gold Firebird, and I could never find one for, a reasonable price. But when they sent me a picture of this, I almost couldn't believe that they kind of ticked a few boxes that I always wanted in a guitar. I love T-style guitars anyway, because I play a lot of them. I love the raised Firebird style center block, and I love Filtertron pickups. So it's almost like they read my mind on that one and designed this thing, because this is such a fun guitar. And that studio session that I mentioned for a new original music project, this guitar is all over those sessions. This was consistently one of the best guitars in the session. Even though I took a few real great guitars, this was one we just leaned on time and time again because it sounded so good recorded. And I've been touring with this thing, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, the Shergold Telstar has to be in my top list because it's just such a fantastic instrument. So the next thing on my list is the Birdsong amps Kestrel. So this is something I acquired earlier this year, and I've been searching for a long time now for a really good tweed amp. And part of my problem is that I'm limited by budget. I love the sound of the old 50s and 60s Fender tweeds, but I'm priced out of that market right now. So I've been trying to find good alternatives, and there's plenty of great boutique builders out there, but some of the prices are not too dissimilar to the prices of the vintage units. So again, I'm kind of priced out the market. And for the longest time, I've been relying on tweed style pedals or, amp sims that kind of do that thing. Then I got talking to the guys at Birdsong, and this thing arrived. And yeah, this ticked every box right away. So this is based on a Princeton style, a tweed Princeton. And it's just got a volume and a tone control, and that is it. It's a single 10-inch speaker. I had this modded so I can use it with my Captor X as well. But it's so simple, but it sounds so good. It's one of those amps that's super responsive, so if you turn it kind of below halfway, you get those nice tweedy cleans. Start to creep above halfway and you're in Keith Richards territory, and then go above that, and then you're straight into that kind of collapsing tweed amp, almost fuzzy kind of sound. This is one of the simplest but most inspiring amps I've played in many, many years. And, in this line of work, I do get to play a lot of amps. And this thing just stood out to me right away. Once again, price-wise, these are super affordable. This is like £500 thereabouts. Incredible value for money, but such a good amp. And I love this thing. And it really did fill that tweed-sized hole that I had in my gear collection. This solved a lot of my tweed desires. thing on the list is the Great Eastern Effects Company Designer Drive. Now this is easily one of the most versatile drive pedals I've ever played. It's so cool because you can do so many different things with the EQ. The width control is something I've never seen on a pedal before, but is absolutely genius because you can really dial in the pedal sounds with the 3 knobs. And then with this control, you can go from thin to fat. So it's really cool because if you're playing kind of classic rock stuff, you can set it slightly thinner so it's got more cut. If you're using it for a lead boost, you can go fat so it really widens out those single notes. This is a pedal that kind of has its own identity, which is really cool. Because you can design it in your own way in that sense, it doesn't actually sound like anything out the box. So I can't turn around and say, this sounds like a Tube Screamer, this sounds like a DS1, this sounds like a whatever. It just sounds like whatever you tell it to sound like. And I think that's really cool because you probably could make this sound like some classic pedals if you wanted to, or you can design your own drive, which I think is fantastic. So this is definitely one of the pedals that has inspired me this year. Number 7 is the Chapman Guitars ML3 Pro X. If you've watched my recent video on this guitar, you'll know the story behind this. I first saw this at NAMM this year, loved it instantly, and now I've got it here for a while on loan until it goes back to Chapman. But yeah, this is such a good guitar. Out of all the guitars I've played this year, this is one that I kept thinking about. I saw this at NAMM, and I actually tried a lot of the stuff on the Chapman booth at NAMM, and my brain kept telling me to go back to that one. It was just something about this that I couldn't kind of escape. Like I was saying with the Telstar, it's a gold T-style guitar. So is this. There's a bit of a theme there this year for me. Gold Telecasters is kind of my thing this year. But what I really loved about this was that it has a lot of my favourite spec on it. So number 1, it's a Tele style, which I love. It's gold, which I love. HSS, which I love. 5-way switch, which I love. Roasted maple neck, which I love. So yeah, there's a lot of amazing features on this guitar. This is one that, yeah, I actually came home from NAMM literally thinking about this guitar, and I got in touch with my friends at Chapman and basically said, when you've got one of those available, can I have it for a while? Like, please, when there's one free. And they came through and they sent this to me for a couple of months, and I've enjoyed every single minute of it. So yeah, if you haven't checked these out, please go and check this thing out because it is absolutely killer. Number 8 on the list is another guitar, and it's the Yamaha Revstar. This is the Revstar Standard with the P90s. Now, obviously, you know the Revstar is not a new guitar for this year. It's just new to my collection. And I finally got one. I've been talking with Yamaha about getting one of these for quite some time. And finally, I have one in this really nice hot Merlot finish. So I had somehow missed the entire Revstar train. And I don't know how, but somehow I completely missed that train. I had been completely, not oblivious, I knew they existed, but I'd never really come across one, even though I know people that own them. Somehow Revstars just never really came across my path until 2 years ago at 42 Gear Street, and my buddy Rich Morgan from Rich Words Music sat me down and showed me every single model from the range on camera. And since then, the obsession started. So that's when I really started to hone in on really wanting a Revstar and thinking, right, what do I need to do to get one of these? Fast forward to now, and I finally got one, and I love it. Since this has arrived, it's been on the road with me a lot. It spent most of its life on the road, actually, with me, and it's been super dependable, sounds great every night, very consistent, holds tune well, plays great, sounds great, super reliable road dog. So I love this thing. Thank you, Yamaha, for one of the most inspiring guitars I've added to my collection this year. Number 9 is something a bit different and a bit fun. This is the AllPedal Macrodose envelope filter. So this is a pedal that I demoed a couple of months ago, and I had so much fun with this thing. I am a fan of envelope filters and autowahs, but I've never really found one that kind of fits what I want it to tonally. I've tried a load of different ones, and they've always been great, but there's always been something kind of missing, maybe a feature that I thought would be a cool addition, or, you know, there's always something that's not quite there. But this thing sounded killer out of the box, and I had so much fun making that demo, and I found so many sounds in this that I really enjoyed, sounds that I didn't think I would have enjoyed. So yeah, if you want to hear this thing in action, there's a full-length video about it, and honestly, it really changed my mind on what envelope filters can do for me. I'm actually very much converted to the idea of having an envelope filter on my pedal board full time. The only thing that stopped me is I literally don't need one for the gig I'm currently touring with. But as soon as an opening comes up, this thing is going on because this is so much fun. And number 10 on the list is the Vola Oz JRM. This was another NAMM find this year. I've worked with Vola before, and I know Vola, and I have a Vola guitar. But at NAMM this year, I went over to the Vola booth to say hello because I'd never actually met the guys in person. And this thing was just there staring at me. And kind of like the Chapman, there was something about it that just instantly drew me in. There was 2 guitars at NAMM this year that I was obsessed with. This was one, and that was the other. Obviously, there was a HSS theme going on because I came away from NAMM really wanting 2 HSS guitars that I saw there. But again, this thing came a few months ago, and I love it. I love that it's very classy looking, but it's a real workhorse. Now, I love the other Vola that I have, which is the Oz ROA, which is the multicolored one, and you might have seen that on the channel before. But as a touring musician, that's not always the right visual guitar to take on the road. So I wanted a Vola that I could tour with that has the classy looks of a classic guitar, but under the hood it has that hot-rodded Vola thing. And this was just absolutely perfect. It's got all of the typical tones you'd expect from a HSS, plus a coil split, plus a series parallel thing for the bridge, and a button to put the neck pickup on and off when you're on other pickup combinations. So good. It's basically every tone you'd need in a single guitar. And like with the Revstar, this has proven to be a very, very dependable touring guitar. I've used this for a lot of shows this year and it's never let me down. Alright, so that's 10 things, but I do have to give an honorary mention to one other guitar, and that is this thing. This is my 1988 Charvel 3DR that I acquired this year. Now, if you haven't seen the backstory behind this guitar, there is a video on the channel that fully explains this. So my friend Mike, who many of you on YouTube will know as CGS, or formerly the China Guitar Skeptic, very sadly passed away this year after a battle with motor neurone disease. And after his passing, his wife and one of his best friends decided that they were going to kind of take Mike's wishes and sell a lot of his gear off. And the money from the sale was going to go into a trust fund for Mike's children, as well as some of it going to MND charities as well. But the real goal was to kind of set his kids up for the future. So they're moving a lot of his gear on, and all of that money then is going straight back to the family. So there's a video on the channel actually where I talk to Andy, his friend, about the sale, and I tell you how you can buy some of Mike's gear. A lot of it's still available, so go check that video out as well if you want to buy some stuff from that collection. A lot of the stuff has gone, but there's still plenty there to buy. But this was one thing that ended up coming to me as a result of that sale. So I first met Mike in 2020 at the first 42 Gear Street. I went there as a brand new YouTuber. I didn't even have 1,000 subscribers at that point. And, you know, a big thanks to Henning and my buddy Andy for making that happen and kind of welcoming me into the community. But when I got there, obviously, I didn't know anyone. I was brand new to this world. And Mike was one of the first people who literally just came up to me, introduced himself, and just looked after me. And that carried on after the event. He always would get in touch with me. He'd always invite me to things. We'd speak on a regular basis. He was just such a great supporter and a great friend, and someone who just always really looked out for me. And I had such a fun time making videos with him over various events over the years at both Henning's and at his own events as well. We always had great fun on and off camera. So Mike, much like me, was a huge fan of all things 1980s. And we always talked at length about our favourite 80s rock bands, our favourite guitar solos from that era, and our favourite guitar types. And I told him on multiple occasions that one guitar that I always dreamed of owning was a Charvel of some sort from 1988, which is my year of birth. And I had come close a few times, but the deals had fallen through. I came really close on one deal before, but yeah, for whatever reason at the last minute, it just didn't go ahead, unfortunately. And, you know, search continued. And then when Mike passed away, I had no idea that he owned this guitar. And then all of a sudden, this thing just kind of appears on, you know, a list of things that Mike owned. And I spoke to Andy, who is Mike's friend that was facilitating all of the sales. And I told him that me and Mike always, you know, kind of spoke at length about this kind of stuff. But Mike never told me that he owned this. And this was one of Mike's personal guitars. So when Mike was younger and he played in various bands, this was one of his main guitars at that point. And at that point, I just knew this is the point where everything aligns, and I'm going to get my Charvel, and I could not have bought a better one. This is an incredible guitar, but also it is now incredibly sentimental to me because of, you know, its history with Mike. And Mike owned this for over 30 years. So I'm looking forward to being the custodian of this for, you know, at least the next 30 years. So thank you, Mike, for passing the torch on to me with this thing. This is such a great guitar, and I did make a full-length video about this, so please go check that out. And, you know, please buy something from Mike's sale, because it, you know, it directly benefits his family, and it helps them out in the future now that their dad has unfortunately left us. But yes, this is now mine, and I absolutely love it. I don't know if I will ever feel like I truly own this guitar. I will maybe always feel like this is Mike's guitar and I'm just the custodian of it. But either way, I'm incredibly happy to have this in my collection. So yeah, thank you, Mike. So there you go. There are my top products from 2023. Now, I know not all of these things were released in 2023. As I said at the start of the video, these are just things that have come into my possession this year at some point, all passed through my studio at some point. And they've all kind of inspired me in some way, which is great. It's been a really good year for gear. There's been a lot of cool stuff. And to be honest with you, there's loads of stuff that I would have included on the list, but otherwise we would have had a top 200 products of the year video, which we just can't do. But there's been so much cool stuff. But yeah, you know, you guys have seen the videos. You've watched me demo all these things this year, so you guys know what should be on that list as well. Let me know what you guys would have on your list down below in the comments. I'd love to hear what your top 10 gear list is for this year. But yeah, it has been a crazy 12 months. I am now officially clocking off for the year. I'm ready for a break. So yeah, I'm going to take some time off now and decompress, because it has been insane this year. I'm absolutely thrilled and so thankful that I get to do this for a job. Not just YouTube, but playing guitar in general. I'm so thankful that I get to do this every day. So a big thank you to you guys for making this possible. You guys are a big part in me being able to do this. So thank you once again for your support. Thank you for helping the channel double in size. I really couldn't do this without all of you guys watching and getting involved in the comments. Let me know down below in the comments what your top 10 pieces of gear are for the year, or just even if there's one thing that's really stood out to you, let me know about that, because I'd love to hear what pieces of gear have inspired you guys this year. I will probably not be posting many more videos over the Christmas period, but I'll be around on socials and I'll be around in the comments, so you know, you won't have to wait too long for a reply. But yeah, I'm officially clocking off now, and I'm actually going to take 2 weeks off, and I haven't taken 2 weeks off for such a long time. Anyone who knows me outside of this will know that I have a ridiculous work ethic, and I'm always working, and it's very rare that I'll ever switch off. But that's what I'm going to do for the next 2 weeks. I'm actually going to do no work. I'm not gigging over Christmas. I'm off the road, and yeah, I'm going to decompress. So thank you guys again. Enjoy whatever's left of 2023, and I hope 2024 is even better for you than this year has been. Thank you guys for everything, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care.